Welcome to the Choosing Happiness podcast with me, your host, Rudrani Devi, the Happiness Lady. In these conversations, we will be discussing an uncommon way to find joy in your life with weekly special guests. Did you know you could choose your happy? Won't you come and play and discover how these magical tools could work for you? Let's do this. Well, welcome y'all to another episode of the Choosing Happiness podcast with moi, your host, Tess Rudrani Devi. Yes. And I'm super duper excited today to introduce my next podcast guest. This lady is doing amazing things with children. I want to get into it. Cristina Moreno, que bella ragazza. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on my podcast and have this conversation. I think it's a very important one because it allows parents to know that there is something else out there for their children. But before we get into all that, would you please tell my listeners a little bit about you, your background, those things?
Sure. Hi. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. It's so exciting to be here. Well, my name is Cristina Moreno. I am a special education teacher. I did work in the school system for 29 years. I just kind of retired and decided to go my own way. I've always done many other holistic therapies. I am a family constellator. I do systemic movements. I do a lot of hands-on approaches. I do neurodevelopmental approaches to balance systems. But I've been around kids and young adults almost all my career and professional life.
Wow.
I also am a musician and I have a band for Latin music.
Woo!
So that's kind of fun. And
she lives close to me, y'all. I believe you're in Marietta, Georgia. It's just on the interstate. So next time you're performing, you need to let me know. I play a mean tambourine.
Cool. Hey, you can come and make some noise with us. That'll be fun. And well, music, holistic approaches, hands-on things, always looking into that holistic side of organic stuff that we can do without chemicals, without linear rules and steps and things, using the energy. Always have been drawn by it. But you know, all the judgments and things throughout our growing up and stuff was brought up in a very Catholic family in South America. I'm from Ecuador. And
yeah, I don't know what she's talking about at all, coming from an Italian family from Italy. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So all that mixed of, I love tarot cards and I want to do angel readings and I want to do some of my rituals and my really fun stuff and play with fire and stuff. Everything was like, I'm the perfect example of that little black sheep of the family that always was looking into getting into sin. So after I grew out of it, I now do it kind of professionally.
Isn't that
and I get paid for that.
Paid to be sinful, y'all.
Yes.
It's pretty amazing that you've managed to create that.
So I now get paid for singing in bars and doing things like that, and for reading cards and for working with angels and using energy and just doing my good old daily rituals.
I love it. I love it. I used to pull tarot cards every morning. It's so funny. And I kind of slipped away from it when I moved my mom in. But just recently, I got an email from this guy that he's an astrologer and tarot card reader. And he has it to where he makes it so easy because he has it, where you can just click on a button and it'll pop up. So I have an electronic deck now. And, about twice a week now, I'm pulling a card. My intention is who or what am I today? And what glorious and grand adventure are we going to get into? Because I want to include my body. And then I hit the 3 cards and I'm like, oh, okay. But I have to cheat. I have to actually look them up. I sort of know what they mean, after playing with them for so long.
Well,
I never did it as a profession,
I didn't do it as a profession, except for when I started getting paid for them in a little bit. But then I run into my wonderful access consciousness tools. And
okay. This is what I want to know before you dip into the tools.
Go ahead.
Yes. How in the world did you find access? I mean, I know for me, it was like a needle in a haystack sort of thing where someone invited me to a friend's house, a singer-songwriter that I know in town. And I found access that way because of the event they were doing. And even then I sort of pushed it away, didn't think about it again. And that was 2003 until 2011. And then I had to find it because it was barely any internet going on,
Yeah.
And we had some cell phone activity, but they were, your phone was as big as your purse or whatever,
Yes.
all the stuff. So how did you fall into it? And when did that happen?
Well, at the end of 2018, so it wasn't that far back.
Yeah, that wasn't terribly long ago.
But, I was divorced, then I remarried. Then I was, as I told you before, I was the typical example of I was too much, too loud, too extroverted, divorced, married twice, had all this kind of low self-esteem. I'm not sure if it was low self-esteem or extremely high self-esteem, but just was,
right.
but was just not taken in by anybody else. So I was always in this path of looking for things, first to heal myself, first to get over. I did live through a lot of things like sexual abuse when I was a child and when I was a young adult. And so 2 for the price of 1.
Right.
And then I did have my whole mommy issues and my whole everything about what I just told you before, that I was always too much, doing too many things, doing things that were not permitted, or always exploring different ways. And everything was based on finding how to heal me.
Right.
I had been hurting in so many ways, for so many experiences, that I went to and my sister I have a sister who always seemed to get her shit together a little more than I did. So she was always recommending all these therapies and things that I should go to. And then some of her friends had started doing bars of access. So they came to visit her in her house. So she invited me to that little tea party. And there was, and guess who I ran into this little tea party? It was Manfred Cepeda. Oh. And it was Manfred with Isha, who is a friend of Marta Castro. And so I just sat there, and all my life I had this very awakened awareness of entities.
Oh, wow.
And
whole nother topic, y'all.
Yes, another.
Let me clarify. Entities in Access, we call entities, beings without bodies. But entities can also be this cup. This phone has consciousness, right? But I'm pretty certain you're talking about the beings that used to have bodies, and you're aware of them being around.
Yes, and I couldn't sleep, and I would wake up every night at 2:30, 2:50 in the morning, and I couldn't go back to sleep until 5 something, and I would feel it, and I couldn't sleep, and insomnia, and these whole things. So when I was at this tea party next to Manfred Cepeda, he just started doing some of his stuff. For me, it was like his little shungu shungu stuff. He was just saying all these things that I didn't understand. But it made me feel really good. And the next day, one of the ladies that was there in this party said, I have an Access Bars class tomorrow here in your sister's house. Would you like to come?
Oh, wow.
And, at that time, I was like, shoot, I work for a living, literally. I pay my bills. I have to do this. And I was like, but that's okay. Let's go. Because I've been always known to be like, yeah, let's do it.
Right.
And I just jump into it. And I don't know how deep I'm going to get into it, but I always do jump. So that was my first Access Bars class.
Wow.
Something did sync with me.
Huh.
Because the next month I took another bars class, and the next month I took another bars class.
So you became a certified facilitator of Access Bars
In 3 months. Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Right
I did it in a month.
Yeah,
I have to facilitate this class. This class is better than tapping. I must do this. So I was searching everywhere to try to find a bars teacher. And this was like an island because, Access started in Nashville, Tennessee, where I reside, but it had, by that time, had dispersed. So I had to go to Atlanta for a class. Actually, I found 2 different people in Atlanta. I took one class in Franklin down the road from me that somebody was hosting somebody. And then I had to go to Atlanta, and there were 2 other people, and both of those people are no longer in Access, but I digress. So, the thing is you've got to acknowledge that you're following your knowing. You knew here she's got a job. She's got the 401k, all the things, right? And then she stumbles across at a tea party of all things.
a tea party that I never had time to go to one.
Right. And all of a sudden, well, that's the thing. I mean, I got a record deal because I followed the energy and went to a show that the same friend, singer-songwriter, was doing. And he had me come up on stage, and a producer came up to me. And before I knew it, within 2 weeks, I had a record deal. And I wasn't going to go because I had to leave right after my client left to get to the show on time. And I had cutoffs. My hair was plaited in braids. I had my ball cap on backwards. And I thought, I never go out looking like this. And I went, fuck it, I'm going to go. Because the energy was so strong pulling me there. I didn't know why. What's right about this I'm not getting until I went and all that stuff transpired.
Yes.
So now you're a bars facilitator.
So I'm a bars facilitator. And then I realized that all that search for healing and for all these rituals and angels and cards and massages and, I did all that. Needles. They put needles in my head for to see my past lives and try to figure out why was I so evil, crazy, whatever you want to call me at that time.
Right.
And why was I always living as is funny as with the novella and drama and trauma all the time. I mean, that was me. I should be a writer actually, and I should write my whole life story about it. But
I read that book.
I realized that just bars and just the tools that comes within the class of bars of Access gave me such practical, easy way to target and get working with whatever issues I had.
Right.
So it really helped me jump out of that. I was known always all my life for being depressive, for being my mood swings, for being really defensive. Really, your masculine energy is really strong, and and it was all these defense mechanisms that I had accumulated over the years to protect myself from many things, and also to avoid tapping into the root cause of anything. So that's how I started with bars. And then I went through and I've taken many other foundation classes, 3-day body processes, which are my favorite.
Yeah,
And I've taken some entities classes and stuff. But I'm one of those, I think my original being just loves the teaching part of it. So I don't take one foundation class. I take 5 foundation classes.
Right.
I've taken like 16 bars classes. I've taken like 6 3-day body processes. I've taken the advanced classes. I'm not this, okay, I do 1, 2, 3, and then go to 4. No, I do 5 times 1, 6 times 2, then I go back to 1 3 more times, then I go. So it's like,
but it's always changing. And do you notice that, because you said you love facilitating, you love teaching. Do you notice that we teach what we most want to learn?
yes.
And when you see somebody getting it and you remember that moment you got it, it's like, oh my goddess.
And yesterday I was with my sister in the car, and she goes like, why do you take so many classes? Tell me, why? Give me one reason. Why do you go back and take the same classes over and over again with different facilitators, and I said, because it is actually a contribution to me, to my body, to my being. Every time I tap into the energy of any of the classes, it just fills me up. It just gives me this light feeling, sensation. It gives me this energy of fun, of joy. And I actually do believe firmly that everything follows joy. And if you do what you love and what you like, it's just amazing. Absolutely. So she was like, oh, okay, then keep paying for all those classes. If that's how you feel. I mean,
it ain't about the money, y'all.
I think she was asking me because I just resigned to a 29-year career job that gave me a check every month, that gave me life insurance, that gave me health insurance, that gave me all that safety, stability, that I knew I could count on that. Sure. And then suddenly a situation did come up, but then it was the perfect time for me to listen and say, okay, this is time to get out of this institutional jail that a friend facilitator that I just took a 3-day body class told me about. He said, that's a jail. Acknowledge that. You were just part of that system. And I said, yes. And it took me so many years to actually say, okay, I'm going out. I'm getting out of this. And now, what else can I create now with that? Right. Without the paycheck, stable paycheck, monthly insurance, and all that stuff, I'm
going to spend all this money to take these classes. I mean, of course you look crazy.
So I look very crazy my friends, my close friends, teachers, they're like, we don't get you, but we love the energy that you put into the place. Because they're like, so what happens if I'm like, well, that's just a way of the universe telling me that that's my new path. And something will show up and they're like, what? How can you let go of the safety of the...
You've got to acknowledge something, lady. Because here's the deal, Camille. You followed your knowing, number one. 2, did you notice that it was easy for you to take a leap of faith like that when in the past you would have totally jumped into a telenovela about it? Where you would have made yourself wrong because you'd be like, this makes no sense. I can't do this. Instead, you followed your knowing and you left the jail and, you're more joyous than you've ever been. And I imagine that this second life now, or whatever you want to call it, this new career path is proving to be beneficial. You don't work in the institution anymore. You're not jailed anymore. You have this freedom. But there is something I really want to talk about, because this is the reason I even pulled you in to this podcast. When we first had a conversation, you were telling me about the work you did with the children while you were in jail. And I do want to talk about that, but we got to take just a moment for my sponsor, Mandu, because we got to pay the bills, y'all. The electrocution workout. It's just a little minute commercial I'd like for you to watch where I'm also featured. Oh my goddess, I'm such an actress. But I love Mandu. I love what it's done for my body, for my self-esteem, all the things. So we will be right back.
Mandu is a boutique fitness studio concept, and we are actually the first FDA cleared EMS training workout. And what we do essentially is that we will have a client come in, we will hook them up to a whole body EMS suit, and then we perform a workout on a medical grade device called an eFit device. And that device will send an electrical current to their body through electrodes in these suits that we put on them. And this electrical current is just basically stimulating the electrical current that you already have inside your body. So everybody is made up of electrical impulses. It's what helps you walk, helps you move. We're tapping into that and making it stimulate it more to where we can cause a muscle to actually contract involuntarily. So we can actually create resistance without adding a load to the body. So that is why we, as you see online, it always says ultra low impact. It is scientifically proven. It is absolutely ultra low impact.
And we're back to the Choosing Happiness podcast. Yes, I even wrote a book about it. An uncommon way to find joy in your life.
Yay! I want a copy of that book.
Well, I happen to know someone that could hook you up. Moi. So
I'll take it. I'll read it.
Yay! So y'all, and it also speaks Spanish, by the way, because I know you're bilinguals. So we were talking before the commercial break, Cristina, about how you brought bars into the classroom. Well, not the classroom, but you dealt with a lot of children with autism that had aggressive behaviors, and you even began to have your reputation because you were able to get so much further with these children using this one body process. And I'm shocked. I mean, I've been trying to get it into, I'm in Music City, USA. So I've been doing my best to get it into record labels, management companies. I have individuals that come to me. For those of you on YouTube, you can see that I have a massage table right here behind me. And, so I've had, my clientele is off the chain. I'm super lucky that I have the clientele I have, but they think it's so weird that they're afraid to introduce me into these establishments for the fear that they're going to look like they're crazy. So they're like, I can't, of course, give names or anything of that nature because, that's, client,
confidentiality.
Exactly. So we don't go there, but I would like to know more about what you were able to do for these children and what happened and how did you even get that started? How were you able to even make that happen?
Well, as I told you, I worked in the school system, in different school systems. I did work in South America. I did work for a few months for a few years in South Carolina. Then I came to Georgia. But most importantly, what happened is that I was assigned to work mostly all the time. The challenge was to work with special need kids that had autism or Asperger's or any autism related, I call it capacity.
Right.
Put
it that way.
But of course, in the school system, when I started doing Access and I was like, I may be able to use this. They said, don't even dare try to do that. We cannot publicly say, here it is, do it or whatever. So at the same time, I had built a little bit my private practice where I could invite some of the parents that were there, that I was not directly teaching, to come to my practice that had kids with autism.
Right.
So the first thing I did actually was, okay, can I do some neurodevelopmental approach techniques? Which, listen to me, when I did my neurodevelopmental approach thing, and when I had my first bar class, and I was doing all the positions of the fingers on the head, I was like, trigeminal nerve here, vagus nerve, facial nerve. Oh, okay. And I'm not this brain knowledgeable person, no, but I did have a little bit that background. And I was like, okay, so this is where it's tapping the energy, but this is how it relates to the nervous system. Right. So I kind of figured out that I could not sell certain parents or supervisors or whatever. I could not sell bars of access, energy work, hands-on, 32 points, gentle points on your head. I'm going to touch, I'm going to run your energy. No, but I could sell You guys, I'm a neurodevelopmental screener, very scientific, and I can do some of the activities, very easy activities, very gentle activities with the kids. And could I do that? And they said, well, if you do them as activities, not as a therapy, but as activities, as your daily warm up, as you whatever in the classroom, then be my guest.
Wow. You're so sneaky.
But watch it when you put your hands on a child.
Right.
Obviously, I mean, here is a no thing.
Right.
So, so what I did literally is I closed the window of my door and I said, okay, guys, I'm offering free head massages. Who wants to come? And of course, kids with autism would be like, no.
Right. Don't touch me.
I don't like to be touched, talked to. And especially with this Latina with very high tone voice and very masculine energy. I mean, come on, give me a break. So I first said, okay, everybody's going to come to my table for 5 minutes. And then I try to put my hands on and they would be like this. They would be like, no, don't touch me.
Sure.
So I started doing almost like a facelift, which is another access consciousness body process technique. So I did the bars, but energetically, like facelift first. And I would put my hands and I would do the same positions as in bars, but I did it energetically, like 2 or 3 inches away from their faces. The second time, I was able to barely touch their heads and do the points of bars.
So you think that they were more relaxed, so they got to know you better, or
the relationship I had with them was already established, definitely. And they get along with me, and they knew the loud Latina, and they knew the teacher crazy, and I was fun.
Right.
But whatever they felt, whatever they changed in their body, whatever ease it gave them, was so much that after the second try, they did not put their hands back up again or covered or try to.
Yeah.
And then on the third try, I was like, okay, who wants a head massage? They would fight over who would jump over my desk because I made it my desk, my massage table.
Right. Now they are following their knowing.
They're like,
hey, I feel better after
this. Yeah. A lot of them would fall asleep. A lot of them would, but then, you tap into the energy of the person, and then you see him that all his systems are unbalanced, that everything is going crazy. Try living in the mind of a kid with autism. Sure. It's like walking stoned and drunk throughout your day, trying to do all these things with all these things flying in your head going, because our system is boring to them. They're like, why do you make me count 1, 2, 3? And you're stuck with the stupid writing and the reading and it's like they're way above and beyond our even ability to comprehend on where they are. It's very difficult. But I found that when I did bars, they would first, I kept everybody safe in the classroom. They would stop hitting, kicking, spitting, biting, everything, throwing. They stopped. They suddenly, I was given most of the time the toughest cases of kids with aggressive behaviors.
I can only imagine. You actually gained a reputation for being able to deal
for
with
a while, they would send teachers to observe how it's kind of funny because the way I left was also a misinterpretation of my interaction with a kid with autism.
Oh, wow.
And that kind of went south. But I think that was the universe saying, okay, you've said you're tired of this, Jael. get out of it. Oh, you didn't get out here. Here's a situation you co-created. Get
Yeah.
out. And I got out. But at the same time, for many years, for 9 years, I did have this reputation of being a very good professional, very successful with kids with very difficult behaviors.
That's amazing.
Especially with aggressive behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
I got kids that we would change light switches, move up TV screens, do stuff because they were so aggressive and they would like to destroy things. And that was their way of getting it out of their system. And they became, at the end of the year, they were teddy bears. They were, to the point that to the day now, I'm still very good friends with the parents of kids that I taught 9 years ago here in the States.
Wow.
And kids that I taught 14 years ago in South Carolina. They still are part of my Facebook and they still talk to me. Kids that had some type of intellectual disability and autism and whatever, they are friends of mine on Facebook. And all of this is because I think what you are saying is very important. When you are willing to tap into the energy of what their bodies are requiring. So, and I did take the X-Men class during COVID time. That was
out of my head. Me too. I classes twice, all of them.
Oh, I've taken it 3 times.
Okay, you win.
But it is like that gave me the awareness that it was not necessary to speak. That it was not, that I didn't have to understand anything, that I just had to tap into their energy, give them what they were requesting. And when you are that space, they actually were perfect, to the point perfect, that every time I had a principal walk in my classroom to observe, that every time I had a supervisor walk in, even if they were being these really crazy kids, being bad or misbehaving or stuff, when my supervisors came in, that's how much they loved me, because I gave them what they required. They would sit there, participate like kids, and they were like, what the hell are you doing to these kids? And I'm like,
she put a spell on them, y'all.
Yeah, I'm not drugging them, but I'm, and my friends used to call it, and I used the word
rewiring them a little bit.
Huh?
What were your friends call them? I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, no. I would, they would call it the shungu shungu. It's like the spell thing, the little abracadabra thing.
Well, you are touching. It's funny because you say neurotransmitters and all this stuff. When I explain it to people, I'll say, well, you've heard of acupuncture, right? Because by now everybody knows what that is. I said it's like acupressure because I did learn about different meridian points in all the work that I've done. Mm-hmm. So I've said it's just different groupings of meridian points that when you touch them, it connects. Or it disconnects all of these thoughts, feelings, and emotions that have actually been stuck in your system and in your cellular memory. I said, it's like when you have a car accident, and then every time you drive by where you had that car accident, your body contracts because it has that cellular memory. I said, this doesn't make you forget that you had the car accident, right? But it does allow your body to relax and let go of all those thoughts, feelings, and emotions that have been keeping you stuck in that headspace. I've never even explained it that way before, but that's what it's like,
Yes.
And so the way you're talking about it, I can see, that
but I gave them they required the scientific explanation so that I'll be allowed to be that space for the kids with autism.
Right.
Then I gave them what they wanted. It's like sometimes you just have to give in to that linear thought process here, that unless it's proven scientific and you have a degree. By the way, I have 5 undergraduate degrees. I have a master's degree and about 70 or 80 certifications of little things here and there, which I was told by a 3-day body class facilitator, you can wipe with all those titles. And I said, well, yes, you're right. That does not define me.
And
when I use that though, is I use that to my advantage.
Right. That's what I was just getting ready to say. This reality makes that very significant. So you may as well manipulate the system and use it. You know what I'm saying?
And when I learned that manipulation is one of the greatest tools that there are, I started using it. And why not? And, when it just gave me all this, when you tap, I saw that you have the kid that learned the fish book.
Yeah, I was getting ready to hold it up, and then I was like, where did I put it? Because I just recently did a reading for somebody who has, their child was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I said, actually, they're inviting entities into their bodies. Yeah. And they have autism, they have ADD, OCD, ADHD, and all the things. And I said, start with this book.
And I did, when I hosted an X-Men class, I did with my friend, I did a little live about this book because I think that after I read this book, this is actually the book that gave me the idea of doing the bars in my classrooms.
Wow. Yeah.
Or with my kids with autism. There's a little paragraph in there that says, give them the space and tap into their energy before you're imposing what you want to do with them. And communicate telepathically. I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, now they think I'm depressed, evil, black sheep, crazy, a witch. And now I'm going to be crazy too.
Yeah.
Why are you sitting not doing anything? Well, here I'm just giving them their space. Right. I'm just tapping. And inside my head, I was like, come on, Rudry, sit down. Sit down. In my head, I was telepathically saying, sit down now.
Right.
Sit down. Wow. Do this. Take your stuff. Put it away. Da, da, da. But I was not speaking. Right. So my paraprofessional actually was like, Cristina, you are absolutely crazy, but I now declare myself your best friend because I'm afraid of you. Wow. Because I really don't know how you're doing this, some things and a lot of things that you do, but I really believe that they work. And she was she became one of my best friends. And she actually has seen how I've used these tools.
It's magic.
And it sounds, I'm like, okay, you're having this issue. Let's do these questions. And right after we finished the questions, the little facilitation that I did with her, the phone rang. Oh, you have your position back. You're da-da. And she was like, how? And I was like, well, when you are willing to listen, willing to be that space. And please show the book again, because I think
I want to say what this book is. It says a different take on kids with ADD, ADHD, OCD, and autism. Would you teach a fish to climb a tree? Because that's what it's like when you're trying to teach children with autism, because they're X-Men. They're different. When you were saying X-Men before, that's the term we use in Access Consciousness for these children with special needs. We could learn a lot from them. But this space you're talking about, you can do it with anyone. I do it with my cat when I'm getting ready to put the medicine in her ears. I'm like, this is only going to be a second. It's going to be okay.
I've done it with my children, with my pets, with my clients, with my students.
I've even done truth in my head with complete strangers. You're in a store or whatever. And it's so funny. We have this thing where we say truth in our head and then we ask a question. And then you get to know if they're lying to you or not, because if you say truth and you feel heavy after they respond.
It's really funny that you say that. In my house, I have them convinced that I have 2 eyes in the back of my head and stuff, because they know that I see it as a big sign here. I'm lying or I'm making you think this is it. And I tell them usually it's my choice to go for it, to make them think that I believe them or not. But to know that I know when the energy is heavy, when they're contracting, as you're saying. And you know what? The fantastic thing about this is, and I'm so happy that you showed the book, because thanks to that book is that I started using the tools in my classroom and with my clients with special needs. Little note, I do host clients that are not special needs also. It's open for everybody. Part of my expansion is I work with you, with everybody else, with kids with special needs or special capacities.
Right.
But also I'm expanding to the whole humanity. So, but that book did, at first I was reading it, I was like, this book, it's such a little. He came in the room, he went out, then doctor said this, and I was like, this is so simple. This is so too easy.
Right.
That's what I thought. I was focused on, okay, I have been working for 29 years or 25 at that point with kids with disabilities. And I've been a principal in a school for 12 or so many years in South America. And then I came back because I actually like to work with the kids, not with the administration part of it. And they're telling me, they're trying to teach me how to do this with such a I even thought it was a little way too simple.
Yeah. And that's the thing. These tools are so easy that a lot of people don't think they're going to work, and so they don't even consider.
But then when I was in allowance, and I was like, okay, let's see. Nothing of my difficult approaches are working. So let's see how this works. And when it worked, it gave me such joy to see how much my kid, they become my kids after they go through me, they're mine. They just became so happy, and their families were so grateful because they were finally able to go to a movie theater with their kid with autism and sit through a 2-hour movie.
Isn't that amazing?
Without a tantrum, without a dysregulation, without a whatever, because the kid finally could sit at a restaurant and eat without a tantrum, without throwing, without screaming, So for me to get that feedback from my parents, and to see my kids empowered, and see them being, and me loving what they be. See, the thing is that we have so many projections and expectations, and that's part of the failure of the educational system here, is that we put everybody in a box, and you pass this test, and if you pass it, you're worth going to this next level. If you're not, then you're not good. Then at least pass the GED, and at least, and I'm like, guys, that is not it. It's how much are you loving learning, and and I actually do acknowledge that I am my father said that my career there should have a career for a student, a professional student. Because I kept tapping into I love learning, and I am curious, and I love to go and not that I remember everything that I've gotten into, not that I know for a fact everything, but it just gives me that knowing that okay, this is the way it goes, and being the space for kids with autism, and actually running bars to kids with autism. I've had people, because Gary did mention one time that bars need to be a hands-on thing, and it wouldn't be like energetically. But then I've heard him say in other cases that, well, sometimes start with energy. So I'm kind of manipulating what Gary has said, and I'm like,
Gary,
okay.
guys, we
So
need to let them know. Gary Douglas is actually the founder of Access Consciousness, and this was the first modality in Access. He actually channeled these points on the head, and it turned into this. And that was so many years ago, y'all. Like, oh my goddess, like 25 years ago, maybe closer to 30
maybe
now.
more, closer to 30 now, but and that's it. It's maybe an allowance to use a tool that Gary channeled and that is so fantastic, that did so much for me.
Yeah, that was the channeler I went to go see, y'all. It was Gary Douglas.
Yeah, that did some things that it's like it lifted me out of this drama novella, trauma, life, rejection, abuse, all the stuff, and put me here. Not that I became stupid and I don't remember the abuse or don't remember my childhood or don't remember things, but I remember them without the feeling, without the heaviness, without the emotion. So I can talk to you and tell you I've been raped twice without pain, without the drama, without the trauma, and I'm over it, and I'm okay. And now I can empower people that have been abused, and I actually do the abuse hold. But it's so easy to have these conversations and go into so many different areas, and stay focused in one is a little hard for me.
I know, it's like, I'm going to have you back as a repeat offender, because I'm sure we could go on for days about, the miracles that we've seen with just this one modality. And then there's several other body processes that we haven't even touched on. But
and right now, honestly, for my kids with autism, since we're getting back, hey guys, we, just like Dane, we're all ADHD.
Yeah.
And we have an issue with getting back to doing one thing at a time. But I have used with kids that I know of their stories being a little bit on the abuse side of it.
Right.
I have used cellular memory, and I have used Summa Zero trauma, and I have used other body processes from Access Consciousness that I'm hoping they've had tapped into their energy and helped them also get out of it, or deal with it, or live with it with ease. But honestly, I still recommend fully to try Access Bars. And I hope Gary doesn't smack me when he hears this, and of me saying that start running the bars from the distance, and because they will not tolerate you touching them.
Do what works.
Go closer and closer, and then I'm fully hands on their heads and doing their stuff.
You got to do what works, folks. I mean, I've had parents in here with their children with special needs, and they're telling me they're not going to let you touch them. They're not going to let you touch them. So I'll actually sit on my hands and talk to them telepathically and say, okay, so now I'm going to just touch these areas, and now I'm going to touch these areas. And
I have my massage table here, and they would start laying down. 2 seconds later, they were standing up in the chair. So you see Cristina going behind the child's head, and I'm moving with them until I discovered that you could. I was told that you could put a movie on. So I was like, wow, okay, let's watch a violent movie for kids. And then,
which is every cartoon ever made.
Yeah, and they were actually idiotized with the movie,
right?
But then they would let me do everything, and then I had full 2-hour sessions with kids with autism.
That's amazing.
So you tell me if it works. Ask them, but they did not require these one-on-one chaperones at school anymore to control their aggressive behaviors. They did not require this extreme nowadays interventions. They required space. They required, for me, I'm the teacher mom. Right. They required love. They required someone to be willing. That's what they required. Someone to be willing to be there for them.
Yeah, to meet them on their
on their need. Yeah, on whatever whatever they were asking, on their asking, really. So so yeah, that's my experience with autism. And I did I think I did contact Terry Hope. I did.
I'm trying to get her on the podcast forever. In fact, I just texted her this morning and said, listen, I've been trying to get you on for a year now.
I did send her a thing, but you know, I'm just a teacher. I'm a newbie.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not a
Terry Hope actually proved that access consciousness bars works because she did this whole test, and I'm going to have to wrap this up soon.
Yes.
You guys we'll go on forever. If you've listened this far, thank you so much. Because we know you all probably have ADHD too, or you wouldn't be watching this. But she basically showed the neurons and the transmitters in the brain calming down on these points when they hooked these people's brains up to electrodes. And she has 2 presentations. They're not available yet. Soon they'll be available in several languages. Once they are, I will put them in the show notes. And I plan on having her on the show in the future. And Cristina also mentioned Dane, so I got to shout out props to Dane, Dr. Dane here, who is the co-founder of Access Consciousness.
I'm sorry I made your job a little bit.
Gary, Dane, blah, blah, like everybody knows who we're talking about. Yeah. Some people, this may be the first time, and if it is, thank you so much for joining us. And please hit the subscribe button, and you'll get more episodes like this. And if you know anybody that this could have helped or would be a contribution to, please share it with them. So I think we got to wrap it up for now.
Yes, and if you ever, I'm going to throw my thing in there. And if you ever would love to talk to me or reach out to me, I'm sure you can get Rudrani to give you my information.
It's going to be in the show notes, babe. They're going to have all your information, so you don't even need to come to me.
I'll be glad to guide these parents and to tell them a little bit more about the story of me working with kids with autism. Sure. And I thank you so much for this space, for letting me share a little bit of my story. And
I'm super grateful. Thanks, love. This has been an amazing conversation. I can't wait. Can't wait for it to get out into the world for those people that are seeking, because you know what? There is another choice for your children with autism and for you as an adult if you've been suffering or you haven't been diagnosed or whatever it is, I mean.
And it doesn't need to be autism.
Yeah.
There are so many diagnoses that we buy into it.
Sure.
And that we can get out of by using the bars of access or a body process.
Thank you for that reminder. Yeah. You don't have to be in the autism club. Okay, y'all? And you won't be wrong if you are. So that's all we got for you today, folks. Thank you so much for listening in. And until next time, and thank you, Cristina, for being my guest.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having me here. We have to do this more often.
We shall. Until next time, y'all. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for choosing happiness. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, share, and give us a like. And if you want more happy, subscribe to the Choosing Happiness membership, where you can play directly with me, Rudrani Devi, the Happiness Lady. How does it get any better than that?